Why you do this? Understand yourself. Why do some people make you feel like you're the problem, even when something inside you knows you're not? You walk away from the conversation, and something feels off. You replay what was said, you try to make sense of it, and somehow, you end up questioning yourself. What you said, what you meant, what actually happened, and the strangest part is this. In the moment, it didn't even sound that bad. Nothing obviously aggressive, nothing clearly wrong, and yet, you leave feeling confused, unstable, unsure, like something just shifted, but you can't fully explain why. And over time, that feeling starts to build, until you begin asking yourself a dangerous question: is it me? But what if that confusion isn't random? What if it's being created intentionally? Because by the end of this video, you'll recognize the exact phrases that create that feeling, why they affect you so deeply, and how to see through them, so you can trust yourself again. If you've experienced this more than once, it starts to follow a pattern. You enter a conversation feeling clear, grounded, certain, and then something small happens. A comment, a response, a shift in tone, and suddenly, you feel like you're on unstable ground. You try to explain yourself, but it doesn't land. You try to clarify, but it somehow turns back on you. And before you even realize what's happening, you're defending yourself for something you weren't even sure you did. And afterwards, you sit there thinking, how did that even turn into this? This is where most people get confused, because these interactions don't look aggressive on the surface. They don't look like obvious manipulation. They sound normal, sometimes even calm, but what's happening underneath is something very different. These phrases don't attack you directly. They distort your perception, they shift your focus, they move you away from your own experience and into doubt. And that's why they're so effective. Because you don't react immediately. You question yourself instead. And once you see the pattern, you start noticing something important. The same types of phrases keep appearing, different situations, different conversations, but the structure is the same, and each one does something specific to your mind. Some create doubt, some shift blame, some erase reality, and together, they slowly disconnect you from your own sense of truth. One of the most common ones sounds simple: you're overreacting. It doesn't sound extreme, but it immediately reframes your emotional response as the problem. Instead of looking at what happened, you start questioning how you reacted. And that shift is everything. Because now you're no longer focused on the situation, you're focused on yourself. And then there's another one. That never happened. This one goes even deeper, because it directly challenges your memory. And when that happens repeatedly, you stop trusting your own perception. You start wondering, did I misunderstand it? Even when you didn't. Then comes something that sounds almost harmless: you're too sensitive. And this one is powerful, because it targets your identity. Not what happened, but who you are. So now, it's not just the situation that feels wrong. It's you, your reactions, your emotions, your personality. And once that idea takes hold, you start adjusting yourself, instead of questioning them. Then there's this one: I was just joking. And this one is especially confusing, because something did hurt you, but the moment you react, it gets dismissed. So now you're stuck between two realities: what you felt, and what they're telling you it was. And instead of trusting your reaction, you downplay it. You tell yourself it wasn't that serious, even when it was. Then it shifts even further: you're the one causing problems. And now, the entire situation flips. What started as something you questioned, becomes something you're blamed for. And this creates a very specific confusion, because you feel like something is off, but now you're defending yourself instead. And that keeps you stuck inside the conversation, instead of seeing it clearly. Then comes something more subtle: everyone else agrees with me. And this one isolates you, because now, it's not just you and them, it feels like you versus everyone, even if it's not true. And that pressure makes you question yourself even more, because now the doubt isn't just internal, it feels social. And finally, one of the most disorienting ones: I don't know what you're talking about. This shuts everything down. No resolution, no clarity, just confusion, because now the conversation disappears, without ever being resolved. And that leaves your mind searching for answers that were never given. When these patterns repeat, they don't just confuse you in the moment. They change how you relate to yourself. You start second-guessing your reactions. You start explaining yourself more. You start trying harder to be understood. And the more you do that, the more control you lose in the interaction. Because now your focus is no longer on what's true. It's on trying to fix how you're being seen. And this is why it feels so destabilizing. Because your internal signal and the external response don't match. And when that happens repeatedly, your brain tries to resolve the conflict. And the easiest way to do that is to doubt yourself. Not because you're wrong, but because your system is trying to make sense of something inconsistent. But once you see the pattern clearly, something changes. Those phrases stop feeling random. They become recognizable, predictable, and when something is predictable, it loses its power. Because now you're not reacting blindly, you're observing. Instead of immediately defending yourself, you pause. You notice the shift, you recognize the pattern, and that creates space between what was said and how you respond. And in that space, you regain control. Here's what actually helps in those moments. You don't try to win the argument. You don't try to explain yourself perfectly. You don't try to prove your reality. You name the pattern, internally. This is deflection. This is blame shifting. This is distortion. You slow the moment down. You return to what you know happened. And most importantly, you stop over-explaining yourself. Because the more you try to convince someone who is distorting, the more you get pulled into their frame. Instead, you stay grounded in yours. And that shift changes everything. So the next time you walk away from a conversation, feeling confused, don't immediately assume it was you. Pause. Think back. What was actually said? Did it clarify things? Or did it make them more unclear? Because clarity doesn't create confusion. Distortion does. And once you start seeing that difference, you stop losing yourself inside those moments. And you start trusting what you felt before it got questioned. And here's something I genuinely want you to think about. How different would your life feel if you trusted your own perception more than someone else's version of it?